Now transitioning to a live stream.
Well, good evening. Today is day 2 of 393 consecutive sonic streams. I believe 2024 is going to be an incredible year. I believe it is going to be a watershed year. We are going to be able to look back at it and say that was the year when we solved homelessness. Not that we'll have eliminated homelessness in 2024, but I believe we will have a model to address the housing side of homelessness. And I believe historically it'll be a before and an after. I believe in the future we are going to study and have courses and make movies about homelessness the same way that we currently have to study the Great Depression, so we don't forget that, so we remember it, so we teach our kids. But it's a thing of the past. It's no longer with us except in our memory. I believe homelessness is solvable and it's something we can eliminate. And I believe that big goals like that are not only accomplishable, but when we align with that, it gives us our true north and it brings out the best in humanity. So, because I believe this year is so incredible, I'm documenting it with 393 consecutive sonic streams where I narrate my experience day by day. And we're going to mint these through our Attention Live system that we've invented. And we'll preserve them for posterity and other things you can do with cool NFTs that we're experimenting with. So today was Wednesday, so this is the day I drive up to the House of Web3, which I did up in San Francisco. Just beautiful place in the Presidio. It's very creative. It's great to be there. And I had a series of meetings. We had our We Heart SF lunch. We also had an evening meeting with Dignity Moves and one of their partners talking about their solution to address the housing crisis, which is very innovative, very cool. We're going to partner with them. One of the big milestones today was setting the date for INNOVATE 2024. The next event, we're going to do several INNOVATE events or similar events if we change the name, but the same idea, same purpose. And the first one is going to happen in San Jose towards the end of February, most likely February 28th, which is a Wednesday, unless we move it to February 29th, which is that Thursday, which I really like. That would be cool because you can't repeat that date very often and it's very memorable. So that was the decision we made. I also had 2 really interesting interviews. I interviewed Dr. Nancy Hardin, or as I like to say, Mama Nancy, who's one of my key important mentors in my life. I've known her at least 30 years. No, I've known her at least 28 years because I met her before I've been married, and I've been married 27 years. And met her at least a year before I was married, so close to 30 years. She's going to be 93 next year. She's been in the Bay Area, in Oakland, East Bay, and then after she became a widow, she moved to Alameda. But she's been there since she was 18. That's quite a while. And she's been on the cutting edge of front lines of every social movement. She was involved in the civil rights movement. She was involved in various revivals. And she's a woman of prayer. She likes to intercede. She believes talking to God can have more influence than talking to anybody else. I don't know, you might be a skeptic, but I would say let her pray for you and then decide, experience it before you comment on it. It's powerful. And that was a very fun interview. She's moving out. She's moving back to the East Coast. Her natural sons, I'm only a spiritual son, have prevailed upon her, and she's moving back there. And that's where she needs to be. She's going strong, though. I do not think any doctor would bet on her not living another 10 years at least. So my goal with her is to break the record of longevity. The current record of longevity is 118 years. It hasn't been broken for a long time, but I think that's a record that needs to be broken. Also interviewed Yaniv, who's the CEO of GeoBrowser. That was very, very interesting to dive in deeper about his vision of what GeoBrowser and what the whole Web3 ethos is all about, democratizing and bringing transparency to the way we interact with each other, and specifically the way we access the world's knowledge. Right now, you can say the closest thing we have to the world's knowledge is on the internet. That's not all the world's knowledge, of course, but there's more there than there is any other one single place. But the way we interact with it is really messed up. You have fake news. You have very difficult to determine what is true and what is not. What are the facts? You have everyone disagreeing. Then you have ideological echo chambers. Then you have it all controlled by very, very large, corporations that are not democracies. They're kingdoms. They're ruled by executives, by CEOs and boards, like oligarchies. And they're not responsible. They're not held accountable by the people. They're held accountable by the shareholders to a degree, but really it's the majority shareholders, the board members, and the executives. Is that the type of system we want? And they are more powerful than any corporations humanity's ever seen. We envision a different type of ecosystem, one that's far more transparent, that's controlled by the people, that does not, instead of ideological echo chambers, you have transparency, and you have a mechanism with which to connect people rather than divide them. And to be honest, I believe that's the most important problem to solve. Our motto, their motto, which I've adopted, is let's solve the world's biggest challenges. Which, I've adopted their motto. I've adopted their words. That's been the motto that's driven me my entire career, is maximum impact and mobilizing people, primarily using people technology, which a human being is the greatest innovation ever. And we've not yet even become close to human beings and what we can do. But my whole career has been about mobilizing people to get outside of themselves, outside of the four walls of their organization, their thinking, and to serve the community, to solve the biggest challenges and transform community into a future that is much more positive. So I've adopted the words of, I've deeply resonated with the philosophy of the House of Web3, which is let's solve the world's biggest challenges. And that's what they're building the whole GeoBrowser around. So it's exciting, that partnership, and my interview with Yaniv was very stimulating. So these will be coming out. And my goal, my big, hairy, audacious goal for 2024, which I actually believe is realistic, is that in 2024, we'll have demonstrated to the world, but I think right now, primarily, I'm thinking about America. We'll have demonstrated that homelessness, the housing crisis, homelessness, however you define it, is much more complicated than just housing, but that the housing crisis is a solvable issue, and that if we mobilize together, we can look at it differently and we can solve it. And I believe that 2024 can be the watershed year, where we look back and we document and say it was that year that things changed and then we study homelessness, and particularly the last season, it's been increasing and growing and exponentially increasing. We study that season as a thing in the past, that we study the way people now study the Great Depression. It's important to know about, but it happened and it's not there anymore. I believe homelessness can be a thing of the past. And I believe 2024 is going to be the watershed year when that happens. So stick along for the ride.